morning, friends and family. I hope you're doing well this beautiful day. We're going to be reading Galatians 4. It reads, "What I am saying is that as long as the heir is a minor, he is no different from a slave, even though he is the legal owner of the state. Rather, he is subject to guardians and caretakers until the time previously set by his father. So it is with us. When we were children, we were slaves to the elemental spirits of the universe. But when the appointed time arrived, God sent forth his son. He was born from a woman, born into a culture in which legalistic perversion of the Torah, the Old Testament laws, was the norm, so that he might redeem those in subjection to the legalism, and thus enable us to be made God's sons. Now, because you are sons, God has sent forward into our hearts the Spirit of his Son, the Spirit who cries out, Abba, that is, dear Father. So through God, you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if you're a son, you're also an heir." Oh my goodness, that's so nice. All right, so the things that spoke to me is the first part. It says that when we were minors, basically, if you think about it, the Old Testament, after God created Adam and Eve in the beginning, there was this, God was talking to them like I'm talking to you right now, like face to face. Well, we're not face to face, but face to face, he was talking to them like on a normal basis. When Adam and Eve sinned and they disobeyed God, that relationship broke, and there was no more of that communication on one-on-one. That relationship was broken by the disobedience, by the distrust that Adam had with God. He didn't trust God. He did his own thing and he disobeyed God, and he broke that relationship with God. And at that point, God leaves Adam and Adam stays behind. Basically, he kicks him out of the Garden of Eden and he's not able to be there anymore. So that relationship was broken. And from that point on, every human being that is born after that doesn't have a caretaker. It's left by themselves, like fatherless, if you want to think of orphans. Every point after that, every person that was born after that was left orphan. That's why it says here that as long as the heir is a minor, is no different from a slave, even though he's the legal owner of the state. Rather, he's in subject to guardians and caretakers. When God brings the law down, like when God tells the law to Moses, and then they write it down and they write all these different ordinances and all the things that they are not supposed to be doing, God is giving them a letter, like sending them a letter. This is what you're not supposed to be doing, but he's still not with them. He's afar off. Okay? And so basically, he sends those things like regulations for children that are still orphans at this point, until the appointed time has come. The appointed time is when Jesus comes to redeem us of those things, redeem us of the sin, the thing that made us have that broken relationship with God. The only person who was able to not sin and have that personal relationship with God without sinning was Jesus. Jesus himself came and he redeemed us from all of those things. It says that until the appointed time has come, God sent forth his son. And it says, so that we might be redeemed, those in subjection to the legalism, and thus enable us to make God's sons and daughters. So at this point, because of Jesus, we are redeemed from the sins, and now we can have a good relationship with God again, God the Father. And that's where it says, now because you are sons and daughters, God has sent forth into your hearts the Spirit of his Son. And the last verse, on verse 7, it says, so through God you are no longer slaves, but a son. And if you are a son, you're also an heir. So if we, through Jesus, through the Spirit of Jesus that now lives in us, we are no longer slaves of that letter of laws and regulations. And we, at that very first part where it says, I never read this before, like in this translation, it says subject to guardians and caretakers. And I was like, so we're no longer into those subjects, subjected to those things, because now we have a relationship back with our Father, and now we are heirs. We become heirs. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.